Talking about things that, help us help ourselves. And especially with the holiday season right around, the corner. We're in the thick of it now, and Christmas is going to be here in almost 10 days on Sunday. Managing our mental health is really important this time of year. And how are things going overall at the facility?
Well, I do think that we do have, everyone's full. Our caseloads are full. People are, the topic of the last couple of weeks have been like, how do I care for going to family events? What do I do? What do I say? And then it usually slows down because everyone's doing those things that they've tried to put into practice. And then we see it rev up in January, like, oh, I made it through. What do I do now?
Well, and that honestly is on the minds of so many, when it could be, I guess the lighter hearted side of things, maybe, you're worried about what the conversations lead to around the holiday table and all of the stereotypical holiday, folklore that comes with that and what comes with it. But also there's some people that have trouble being in those kind of gatherings, where, there's a lot going on and, there's maybe just too much energy there. What is, Ellie, in your conversations looking like right now with folks that are maybe a little bit nervous about that? What does that look like to help us overcome that maybe chaotic Christmas Day breakfast, Christmas Day dinner, and Christmas Eve festivities as well?
Well, one of the things that I do in my own life, and then I encourage my clients to do and my family members, is to pay attention to the shoulds that we have. When people should us, then that's the expectation that they have for our own life. So make sure that you are, whenever you're making decisions, is this a should? Is this an obligation that maybe has run its course? Is this something now that doesn't bring me joy? And if it doesn't, that's okay to decline. And if you are needing to go to it, set some boundaries or some standards for your time. I'll go for a short time. I'll be kind, and then I'll leave at 2:30.
Absolutely. And I think that, for so many people, that becomes the conversation is this even worth going to? And then maybe if we don't go, we start kicking ourselves. We should have gone to that. We're missing out. And that's a great way to do things. And, I think it's a great way to lead into Ellie Mental Health as a whole, because, this isn't your average clinic. This is a really unique way to provide comfort to folks. Do you care to fill me in a little bit more?
Well, I love this. Whenever I heard about Ellie for the first time, I was like, are you sure? Is this legit? And it actually is. And it comes from the top down. And we promote just authenticity, that we are our true self, that even a lot of our shirts will say, you're welcome. I'm in therapy. And we just make it more lighthearted. Not because mental health isn't very sacred and needs to be honored, but it also needs to be like, there's healing here,
right?
And we can move forward with this.
Is it
there's a hope in it.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because it's one of those things too where it doesn't seem like, because I was always told, the kind of the old hat thing, if you can't, laugh at yourself a little bit or have some type of joy in what you're doing, it's going to be a lot harder to get things done. Is that kind of the same type of wavelength there at Ellie?
Well, I think we would never poke fun or laugh.
Right. No.
But at the same time, I think being lighthearted about things is always very beneficial to us.
Right.
And there's a whole practice of, the more you laugh, the happier you are. So why wouldn't that be the case?
Well, and see what I've noticed too, and going through the mental health cycle that I went through with, therapists and all that, and I'm honest about talk about it. When I have conversations with other people, that's kind of how I talk about things, because I'm one of those where if I start to talk about it maybe in a more of a serious or more of a monotone way, I start to relive it. And if I can, talk about it in a way that's lighthearted, that's not, degrading to myself, but in a way that we can, kind of embrace it, it really does a lot more. It doesn't feel like a weight on your shoulders. It just feels a part of your personality trait.
I agree. Like, I feel like we have become a part of the top favorite things that you have in your life, like your cashmere sweater, and then you have a therapist. Like, everyone needs a therapist.
And
What's up then?
That's a great
Right?
line. That's the commercial, you know?
Yeah, it really is. It goes with it. You want this, you know?
Right. Well, and two, I think the team at Ellie is really important too that you guys have because, just reading a little bit about you guys after I talked to James and got
Aren't they
some of
beautiful?
oh, it's amazing. Now take me through the way this diversity that you guys have and girls have too, that, you really do help encompass all of the region and their needs.
When I was charged with building a staff for Ellie, my vision in that is that we would be every color of the rainbow.
Yeah.
And what that meant is that if somebody, when they said they were brave enough to say, I actually am going to go get care for my heart. And then we say, okay, well, we have 15 therapists to pick from. And that they would be able to say, oh, well, okay, yes.
Yeah.
I can, they care about me. This is the right match, or they look similar to me.
Yeah, 100%.
I love what they wrote. And so I feel like we really have hit the mark with that. And the people at Ellie are absolutely beautiful and they are super smart and they bring so much to the table.
And, I think that's such a good point to have on a national level, too, because we're talking about, my grandma used to work in the Alt Mental Health Hospital and the psychiatric facilities and all of that and the 80s.
Yeah.
And she told me for years, she was like, she knew, that, whenever the funding started to go away in the late 80s, early 90s, what this was going to do. And she was talking about, what used to be the way, at the Alton facility and, all these changes that happened and how, and they knew it was going to be a problem with mental health issues. But I think when you have a national conversation, you have to incorporate all people and all thought processes, all interests, because you have to make therapy, like Ellie does, comfortable for everybody. It's that own person's personal journey. CJ's journey isn't the same as Jenna's down, in Florissant. And I think that's so important, and it really does help everybody because not everybody can work with one person. That's just not how life is.
That isn't. And I always say that, like, I'm not for everyone,
right?
But we have somebody that will be for you.
So cool.
And that's also the flexibility that we have. So if you are matched with someone at Ellie, then and it's not a great fit, that's okay. Because we take serious your healing. You need to be in the care of someone that will be just right for you.
Well, and another thing that goes into, care is sometimes, that accessibility and, convenience, because life happens. And, I know of folks that, maybe they just switch, counselors or therapists, and they're starting that process, but all of a sudden, maybe they have a terrible week and, they have a full on, panic attack, anxiety, is through the roof. It's just not right for them. And they need to take a few days maybe to kind of get back to normal before they can have that first interaction. And it hinders the growth because, it's like, when can we get back on? When's that next available date? And it seems like accessibility and convenience is really what you all strive for over there.
Yeah. And I would go as far to say is that even that delay is a part of the healing process. So we haven't missed anything.
That's true. That's a great way to look at that.
So it's okay. It's okay that we take a pause. We need to listen to our bodies, our hearts, what's going on with us. And then it'll tell us again when it's time to move forward with the healing process. So I even say that that's a part of it, the delay.
Well, and honestly, I think for so many people, and I want to ask you this too, because you have all these conversations. I'm so fascinated by this. How much pressure do we put on ourselves for our own journey that we feel? Because I feel like sometimes we think the world is looking at us like, uh-oh, it's been 3 months and CJ hasn't gotten any better, or he's leaving the party early again. Does a lot of that pressure come internally? Are there some external pressures that maybe we don't directly encounter, but they're still there secondhand?
I think if we're vulnerable enough to share that we're in therapy, then we somehow then get this audience, make believe or not.
Yeah.
And so we think that they're all watching us.
Yeah.
Like, am I doing better? Oh, you don't think I'm doing better? And we have to be willing to be misunderstood in that situation because it's such a personal journey.
Yeah. And how important is it for the public? We all have friends or family or, ourselves that are in counseling to not, and maybe we don't, we aren't in counseling ourselves, but our son, daughter, best friend is. How can we be a good good support system without treating that individual like a patient, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying there in a way?
Well, I think that human to human, we're all in need of healing at one point.
That's true. Great point.
So why wouldn't we treat them like, I'm so proud. I know it's great to get help. Way to go. Or I think I might do that. Or I'm not ready for that yet. Well, it's just a posture that we should have human to human.
Well, and I wanted to talk with you about this too before we take a break, because I'd love to keep you for a couple more minutes if that's okay during the commercial break.
Thank you. Yeah.
Before we go into that break, I wanted to ask you about your experience, 18 years of experience in mental health, working with folks. How has it changed through technology, through cultural changes, through societal changes? How has your role, how has your job, how has your practice changed, and how have you stayed up to mirror it? I've always found this fascinating, especially with this kind of wave of technology and information we got hit with that was kind of unprecedented.
Well, I do think that it has changed. I also have seen that there has been more anxiety that's come to the surface. I used to work in the schools, and it was profound from one year to the next that all of a sudden we had students that were diagnosed with anxiety, which is a real thing. It's the fear of the future. That's what fear of what already happened to us is going to happen to us again. And so I do think that it has been really important for us, even during COVID. Yeah. That was such a switch for us to be able to do telehealth and people still be able to have their person to talk to during that time. Wow. Thanks for, usually we have been like, it's okay. But it really ended up being something of a gift to us. So those who have some anxiety, don't want to come in the office, then they can do telehealth, still get care.
Well, and see, I think that's so important too. And honestly, I want to talk a little bit more about the youth side of things, if that's okay. I want to talk about impact that Ellie's made on the community, and also some tips for managing that holiday stress. If you have some moments to stick around for a couple through a commercial break, if that's okay.
You got it.
Awesome. I'm going to mute your microphone. I'll unmute it when we come back. But first, folks, at 10:18, before we take a break, Hainer Library. Our library is so cool. So what they've done, it's really unique. If with your library card, they have this new thing called the Library of Things. So like in the summertime, they have all these outdoor games, projector screens. They even have ghost hunting equipment, stand mixers. They have things that you can check out for free and bring them back, so you don't have to fight the the customer service lady at Walmart for that $89 return that you only used once. And then they also have with the card, Kimberly, they have this way that you can stream ad-free for free movies and TV shows with Biblio Plus. So the library is really becoming this really cool resource center for teens, kids, adults alike. I encourage everybody to go to HainerLibrary.org to see more information. But at 10:18, we will take a little bit of a break. Let's take a look at our nation's capital, and we'll come back with more of Ellie Mental Health right after this on RiverBender.com.
Sleigh bells jingling, ring, tingle, tingling too. Ring-a-ling-a-ding, come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. Outside the snow is falling and friends are calling you.
Life's better when you're under the American Family Insurance roof, because they know your house is home base for their dreams. Whether it's a kid like me aiming for the big leagues, ready? Future rocket scientist, or a budding prima ballerina. When you feel totally protected, your family's free to pursue their dreams. Which is good.
Let's go.
American Family Insurance.
When life throws unexpected challenges your way, you need a versatile legal ally to protect you. Sean Lentz, with over 12 years of experience, is here to help you in a variety of avenues. From personal injury to criminal defense and even semi-truck accidents, Sean Lentz has your back. Don't wait for the justice that you deserve. Call 618-465-8000 and see how Sean can help you today.
No matter the season, Play It Again Sports in Edwardsville has the gear the athletes need to get in the game. Whether you're shopping for the newest sports equipment or saving money on quality used gear, Play It Again Sports carries what you need to maximize performance to get the most out of every swing, kick, stroke, or shot. We'll even buy your used goods, paying cash on the spot. We carry all the gear for all the sports all year long. We're your hometown sporting goods store. Play It Again Sports, conveniently located at 4 Club Center Court in Edwardsville.
Ready for fantastic deals? Head to Village Dispensary, where every day is a celebration. Start your week with 25% off Dog Walker pre-rolls on Monday. Tuesday, enjoy 25% off Divs gummies. On Wednesday, enjoy 30% off Nevada pins. On Thursday, it's 30% off CQ sodas, margaritas, and more. Friday, enjoy 3.5 grams of Megatron by NGW and Cronuts number 4 by Paul Bunyan for $25. Visit VillageDispo.com and shop now.
Picture This and More has been a trusted name in the Alton community for more than 30 years, with the last 3 being right here on Broadway. We specialize in quality framing at affordable prices. We also feature works by local artists because we're proud of our community. If you have valued treasures to display and preserve, we're sure to have the perfect fit with our large selection of custom framing and display options. Whatever color, shape, or size, Picture This and More has the look you need. Stop by today and let us help you with your next project.
Welcome back to our daily show. Here's CJ.
Son of God by name, what tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy, what tidings of comfort and joy. Oh, star of
Welcome back. Daily Show hitting you at 10:22 on this 10th day of December. We are continuing our conversation with Ellie Mental Health and Kimberly Vest. You know, thank you so much for staying back on. You might have to hit unmute there because I don't know how Zoom works. I have some technical difficulties and challenges that hit me every once in a while. Let's see. Can I figure this out? Oh, thank you very much. This is the first time I've ever taken a Zoom guest during commercial break. I wanted to talk more. This is too important. And,
Thank you.
You know, the more that we can talk about it, I think the better off we're all going to be. And we destigmatize so many things. And, you know, with that too, take me through some of the impact that Ellie's had on the community because, you know, with St. Louis, our region's so unique because there's so many cultures. There's so many different, it's a melting pot truly. And no one realizes that, I think, from a broader angle, but when you really look at it, how much is going on. Take me through that community impact y'all had.
Okay, well, I'll tell you about our waiting room.
Yeah.
Okay, so our waiting room had this just small area. And then as we got more and more therapists, we realized that that waiting room was going to need to be bigger. And so within the last year, we have grown. We have a bigger waiting room, and it seats so many people. And then also, we see about 1,000 people a month.
Whoa.
It's a lot.
Whoa. That's incredible. Well,
it's incredible.
I go a step further because even though you're seeing 1,000 people, you're also helping 1,000 families and friends because those, you know,
right.
I mean, honestly, because those relationships heavily rely on our mental health along with that individual's mental health as well.
I agree. I love that you said that. And we take so much pride in that. And that is always when we'll gather today at noon. We meet as therapists once a month.
Oh, cool.
Talk about things, just make sure everybody's good. Because I have to care for my therapist to make sure that they can then care for other people.
I wanted to talk about that too.
Yeah. So that is really what I got to keep an eye on them so that they are able to then pour into other people.
Well, and let's talk about that since we're already there now and we can wrap up with holiday tips is really managing as a therapist, you know, and as somebody that talks to people every day about issues that they're facing in life. I can only imagine, you know, the mental anguish that takes. And I've talked to folks about this before that are professionals in this. How do you manage personally that connection, that, you know, relationship on a mental health side of things for your own well-being? Because I'm sure as therapists, you all hear things that are at sometimes very personal and very, you know, honestly, very serious.
You know what? I'm glad that you see it that way. I care for first responders, and one of the things that I make sure they absorb all of our trauma.
Right.
They carry trauma. But we do as well. Mm-hmm. So when we hear someone's story, we're exchanging energy with them. And then there'll be thoughts of that in my own mind.
Yeah.
And so then I have to then process it. And my brain's going, I don't know what to do with that. What do I do with that? And so then there's this vicarious exchange. And so for me personally, I keep an eye on it. I do have one friend, Diane. She does a great massage for me, and I'll say, I think I'm getting a little dull. Can you help me? And so she knows what that means. And I also try to make sure that I go to the gym, work that out, and then I spend time with people that really bring me so much joy.
Is being active an important part of our mental health?
Absolutely. Here's why, because we're going to then activate all the hormones that make us feel good in our minds.
Gotcha.
And even moving our body bilaterally helps us process our subconscious.
I mean, that makes sense. 100% over. And you know, speaking of that too, I wanted to ask you, it seems like there are certain folks that really do feel this endorphin boost around certain holidays, you know, whether it's Christmas, Halloween, or certain occasions in their life. Is that a real thing, or is that something that we kind of, we think is happening just because of one's love for a certain day of the year?
Well, if you mean like joy that comes in?
Yeah, like joy and that nostalgia. Is that kind of a trained habit that just comes because we're used to feeling that way? How does that work?
Our body remembers everything.
It's cool.
We have anniversaries for things. People will depress during times, and I'll say, did something happen during this time?
Gotcha.
And so it'll be maybe an anniversary that the body remembers, even if we don't like, then we'll go.
It's not front of mind. Yeah. And then
right, that happened during that time. And so I do think if we have wonderful experiences at holidays, then our body goes, oh, I know what to do here.
That's true.
We have a great time.
That's true. And honestly, on the flip side of things, it makes sense why maybe some don't like the holidays because, you know, talking about all the good, there are folks that had very rough Christmas experiences and they just never get into the excitement of it. And same thing with Halloween, Easter, you name it. There's always that flip side too. And it's good to understand those things maybe.
Absolutely. And you'll see that those who have had a harder time during the holidays, that's been something that's been difficult for them, that maybe depression will come. Yeah. They may not be as motivated. They don't want to spend as much time. And so that needs to be honored as well. And that's why those boundaries are good, or standards are good to set and say, here's what I can, here's my limit for during this time.
Absolutely. And, you know, on that too, we have a couple of minutes left and I wanted to, you know, talk holiday tips, but I think this is seriously, it goes hand in hand with that is the age groups, because right now, you know, we're seeing this, you know, 20-year-olds in 2024 are not the same 20-year-olds that were in 1984. There's, you know, cell phones and social media. The interactions might be a little bit down. How do you guys tailor your support for those different audiences, like the singles that are 20 to 40, the parents that are in that age group? You know, does it look different for everybody? Is there some ways that maybe you can help those younger folks out, those older adults out, you know, right now that maybe a few tips could just get them on their merry way, no pun intended?
I think that always in therapy, you want to look for somebody that's going to see you.
Yeah.
And give you individualized care.
Yeah.
And so to hear the stories of our young people is going to be so empowering for them. And then also give them permission to live authentically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to say, is that what will bring you joy? Okay. All right. So let's go through that. And what would that look like?
That's so cool.
You can do that, you know.
That's so cool. And you know, I think all of this that we've talked about too, Kimberly, you know, that joy-focused approach and setting boundaries that you hit on, you know, so well this interview. And also, you know, understanding, like we talked about, that emotional awareness side of things and just, you know, personally empowering. How important, before I let you go, is it to take a couple of minutes, maybe even a half a day, and get into the, you know, the rhythm in your own personal space? You know, maybe cook a meal for just yourself or do an activity just for yourself. How important are those throughout the year?
I think it's so important. And I think that pre-gaming this season is probably where it's at.
Ooh, let's talk about that real quick before you go. What's pre-gaming the season? That sounds cool.
Pre-gaming means to me, so our brain naturally knows what we're doing. So we think about Aunt Carrie, and we know what we're going to do at Aunt Carrie's.
Yeah, gotcha.
But maybe that like brings something up. So we tell them, so the brain goes, I know what to do. I know how to freak out. But if we say, you know what, actually we're going to do this a little bit different. Here's what we're going to do when we go to Aunt Carrie's. We're going to feel calm.
Yeah.
And we are not going to have a conversation that is going to be painful. And then we're going to eat her pie. And then we're going to answer questions. And it's not that we can just like push back a little bit.
Yeah.
and then we're going to leave after that. You can do that.
That is so cool. That is a great thing to do. What a great tool. Honestly, we gave
I
our
do it a
audience
lot
something today.
with not just holidays, but
Everything.
with nervousness, like my
Yeah.
nervousness, like here's what I need, here's what I need. Or even if there's relationships that may be difficult. This isn't a personal matter. This is what I need from them. We won't do this. We won't do that. So you tell the brain and the brain goes, okay, I know what to do.
This is such a fascinating conversation. Kimberly Vest, thank you so much for your time. Clinic Director with Ellie
Glad to
Mental Health
meet
in St.
you.
Louis. Such a great conversation. Looking forward to chatting with you the next time the opportunity arises.
Me too.
And we'll link everything in a write-up on RiverBender.com at 10:30. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back with Alton Grace United Methodist Church on this Tuesday morning right here in the heart of the 618.